So I'm Mrs. Gallagher. I'm Head of English here at the Girls Prep. And today we're just going to talk about a couple of aspects of Year 4 English. We're going to look at comprehension and then we're going to look at conjunctions, so grammar side of their writing. But just to start with, there's an image on the board with 3 words. See, think, wonder. This might be a type of starter activity that we'd start our lessons with. We'd just put the image on the board, we'd ask the girls, what can they see? What is literally there? What do they think is happening? Who is the man? Where's he come from? Where's he going? What do you wonder? What questions do you have about this image? Off you go, just a couple of minutes, and then we'll feed back to each other. What do we think? What can we see literally there?
A man with wings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do we think he's holding? If I turn the lights off, we may be able to see some of the detail a bit better.
Probably very good.
Yeah, really good.
Some people sound a bit positive after yesterday.
More so. Fallen angel, I like that.
Morning.
Morning. Would you like to join the front table here? Yes, indeed. Welcome.
Place. You are in your place.
We've literally just started.
Okay. So when I came to year 1, it was absolutely...
I know, yeah, because we did 2 year groups together. Okay, so what can we see first of all? Let's start with the easiest, our literal thinking. What is there on the screen? What can we see? Any ideas? Okay, a man with wings. Yep. So, okay, yeah, feathers, black feathers. We might be thinking now, why are they black? Why are they not white? If we're thinking of an angelic being. What else can we see? Okay, yeah, dead trees, dead vegetation. You said something about what he had in his hand.
I couldn't quite tell. It looked like sort of twisted metal or
Okay.
piping or something.
Yeah, bent metal, piping. Okay, what do we think now? Who do we think this man is? How is he in this situation? How's he got himself into this scenario? What do we think? Any ideas?
Fallen angel.
Yeah, okay, fallen angel, linking that with our black wings idea. Any other ideas? Where do we think he is?
War zone.
Okay, war zone, yeah. He looks a little bit dishevelled, doesn't he? Maybe gathered the belongings that he could.
Between the past and the future.
Okay. Going between the past, entering into the future. Okay. What do we wonder then? What do we wonder? Is he escaping? Is he fleeing a situation? Anything else? Any other? Why? Yeah, absolutely. Why has this old man got wings? It's not a normal sight that you would see. Okay, so this is just to get the girls thinking creatively, imaginatively. We might even then get them to plan a story around an image. It's from a website called Pobble 365, which is free, so you can even look at it at home if you wanted to for any inspiration. But it just kind of gets their creative juices going. So, as I said at the beginning, we're going to look at comprehension and writing. So, in terms of comprehension, we get them to answer questions using a structure with 3 elements to it. You have your point, then you have your evidence from the text in order to support your thinking, and then you explain why you've used that evidence. So, let's go back to the national curriculum. And this is the national curriculum for reading in Year 4. I'm not going to read it out, but just have a glance over it. And I've highlighted the key skills in red. All these slides will be available for you afterwards as well. So they need to be able to discuss what they've read, a range of genres, identifying themes and conventions within a wide range of books, discussing their understanding by asking questions, then being able to answer questions about a text, drawing inferences. So we looked at the literal, But using the clues, what can we tell about a character or the storyline? Predict what might happen. Summarising, which they actually find really, really tricky, which surprises me sometimes. But even further up the school, going into 5 and 6, you say, you've read a passage, can you give me the main points of that passage? They find it so hard. They just tell you everything that they've read. No, I just want the main points. And then retrieving, which is our literal skill there. So, point, evidence, explain. You're going to do an activity in a minute where you'll be answering questions using those 3 elements to structure your answers. So your point is summing up your main idea to answer the question. Okay? Your evidence is where you take a quote. So they start in year 3 using this structure. In year 4, this is how they should be naturally approaching questions, longer answer questions. Thinking about their idea and then getting the quote from the text and putting that into their answer with quotation marks. And then explaining what effects that quotation has, why have they used that to help them support their answer. So, here's just a little model for you. When the sun shines, we'll shine together. Told you I'd be here forever. It's hard to read without wanting to sing it. Said I'd always, any volunteers to sing it for me? Said I'll always be your friend. Took an oath I'm sticking it out till the end. I think we get, we know where this is from. So, if I'm going to answer the question, how would you describe Rihanna as a person? Use point, evidence, explain to structure your answer. I've only got that snippet from the song. Okay, you may have your own ideas from what you've seen elsewhere about what Rihanna's like as a person. But I have to use evidence from the text. So that is the song, the bit of the song that I've been given. Any ideas about how I might answer that question? How would you describe Rihanna as a person? You can talk to your partner for a minute if you like.
But now you probably say romantic and faithful.
Remember, you have to use a quote to support your idea. Okay, so I won't get you to feedback this one, but you'll be doing a couple more in a moment. So, point. Rihanna is kind and thoughtful. That is what I think, okay? That's the point that I'm making by answering that question. I then need to use some evidence to back that up. I know this because in her lyrics she says, "You can stand under my umbrella." Explain my quotation. This suggests that she is the type of person who would invite you under her umbrella in a rainstorm. Okay? A little silly example, but you can see how I've made my point clearly. I've then taken something from the text that I've been given, and I've explained what that quotation tells me to help me answer the question. So, we're going to go a little bit more highbrow than Rihanna now. And we're going to have a look at a passage taken from Oliver Twist, which I will hand out to you now. Do you want to join these gentlemen over here? Oops, sorry. So just start having a quick read through it. Some of the language is quite tricky. Oops, sorry. There we go. So have a read through it. One of the first activities we'd do, we would read through it as a class, and then I'd say to the girls, or whoever's teaching them, would say, okay, is there any words that you don't understand? Can we use the context to try and figure out the meaning of that word? As I said in this passage, there are some quite tricky words, but when it gets to year 4, we are trying to expose them to that more ambitious vocabulary. They maybe set homework, looking at defining ambitious vocabulary. Can they bring that into sentences in the right context? Getting them to use thesauruses to up-level their own vocabulary choices. So as I was reading through it, I just highlighted a few words that I thought the girls might find tricky. So porringer, the boys had one porringer and no more. Can we use the context? What do you think that might mean? Okay. Little bowl. And they would sit staring at the copper with such eager eyes as if they could have devoured the very bricks of which it was composed. What do you think devoured means? Assiduously. Okay, so once they've read through the text, we've discussed it, we've discussed that vocabulary that's tricky, we know what's going on, we might do a little bit of role play to make sure that we've really understood the context of our passage. We're then going to go on to look at some questions, and we're going to use PEE to answer these questions. And I've been kind to you today. I'm not going to make you write them out. So I'm going to give you a little bundle of cards, and these cards have the answers to each question, and they are very nicely colour-coded for you. I'm sure you can work out what colours mean for each of the PEE sections. So you can work together, you can discuss. Okay, let's see if we can come up with the answers to these 5 questions, making sure that we've got a point, evidence, explain for each of our answers. There we go. Enjoy. Just going to turn the lights on. Oh, you've got lots of different sets there. So I gave you one set each.
Oh, sorry.
So you made it even harder for yourselves now. I gave you one set each, so each little bundle was a set per person. Yeah, they're all the same. Yeah. But you can work together to do your own. So the first thing I have to do is I have to make my point. So I'm going to be answering the question at the start. I'm then going to have a quotation from the text that backs up my point. And then I'll explain why I've used that quotation.
Where's that? That one, so that must be the explanation. The food bowls were very small.
Oh, this one. Oh, this tells us the book. What is this one?
No, I didn't.
Lots better than the
Yes. There we go. Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's like a
We can do this. We can do this.
It's okay, I'm fine with it. It's just math.
So you've probably by now figured out which colour means which. Now it's just piecing those answers together. And you'll start to notice that the point and the the point and the explain are very similar. And it's sort of just rewording it to explain why you've used the quotation in the middle. Okay, just a couple more minutes. Yeah, that is the bit they find hard as well. It's like, well, I've told you what's, supporting my idea. I then have to try and say it again. The evidence is used in the quote, and the explanation is meant to explain why, what does the quote tell me? Yeah. So in year 3, so in year 3, we'd definitely expect them to be able to do that by the end of year 3. And then going into year 4, we'd start to expect them to then be adding that explanation, which is, I would say, the hardest bit to get right, if that makes sense, without just repeating what you said at the beginning. Okay, looks like we're getting there. As you'll see on the board as well, the questions have been given marks, and we always get the girls to look at the mark that each question is worth, so they know how much detail they're meant to be giving. Obviously, with 4 and 5 mark answers, they will normally be asked to bring in their opinion on a matter. What do they think? But with a 2 mark answer, they will definitely be looking to put in that evidence from the
So do the girls
text.
get given sort of cards like these, or just sort of
Occasionally, in order to model how they should be writing their answers. But generally, they'll be given the questions and they will have to write it out in their books.
And in English, sort of how much is the iPad used or not?
We do a lot of, you've probably heard of Shobi.
Yeah.
So the text may be put on Shobi so that they can highlight it. We get them to annotate it as much as they like. But we'll use iPads for different things. I mean, there's different applications that they use it for the thesaurus, for the dictionary. We have a thing called Puppet Pals where they can create stories using different characters. So it is used in different ways.
So do you use quite a lot in class then?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. More as they go further up the school, because they only get it in year 3. But yeah, more so as they move. Oh, yes, I can imagine. Okay, so let's have a quick look at going through these answers. So, oh, I just gave it to you. Whoops. Question 1. Let's just have a look. Were the boys satisfied with the amount of food they were given? Any takers? What was the point that we'd make answering that question? Were they satisfied? No. Okay, so can you read out what your answer was for me, please?
The text tells us that the boys had 1 porringer and no more, and also that the bowls never wanted washing.
And then we've got our explanation, which you don't need to read out. This is quite a detailed explanation. And I was saying to the table at the back that by the end of year 3, we would definitely expect them to have their point and evidence in their answer. The explanation part is tricky because they're like, yeah, but I've already told you. I'm like, well, yeah, but you need to explain it to me again. So it is sort of like rewording the point, but giving it in a little bit more detail, bringing in what does that quote tell me. So this tells us that the workhouse staff were very strict about the portions they gave the boys, and also that the boys never left any food, suggesting, linking back to my point, that they were always hungry. But the explanation is the tricky part for them to get, and that's what is worked on more in year 4. Yeah, we've done it occasionally to model it for them. They were asking at the front here, but they will generally write it in their books. So we may start off showing them using the cards how it is a model answer as such, but the majority of the work that they do would be written in sentences in their books. So question 2, what were the boys' food bowls like? Any takers? Very small, okay. Yeah, the food bowls were very small. Evidence there, the spoons being nearly as large as the bowls. So that's a sort of inference. We're thinking about our inference there. It doesn't tell us in the text that the bowls were small, but because the spoons were nearly as big as the bowls, we can infer that they were quite small. This tells us that bowls were so small that the spoons were just as big as the bowls. Question 3. How was the hunger affecting Oliver Twist and the other boys? What evidence did we use for that? Sorry? Yeah, talking about the boys' behaviour. Well done. This tells us, and then explaining that quote, this tells us that the hunger the boys were experiencing was causing the boys to become greedy and their behaviour became wild. Okay, question 4. How did the workhouse master feel when Oliver Twist asked for more? Shocked. Okay, and then we can see our evidence and our explanation. And last but not least, how did Oliver Twist feel about asking for more? Somewhat alarmed. So you can see how it's clearly laid out, how they need to make their point. They have to use the evidence. I know I keep going on about that, but that's what we do to the girls. If you say something, where is that in the text? Because when you're doing your comprehension assessments each term, you see some of them like looking around out the window. I'm like, girls, if you're not looking at the text, you're not going to find the answer. Because as much as you know about the world, the answer that we want is going to be found in the text. So that's why we go on about it so much. Okay, so let's move on to writing. So today we're going to be looking at conjunctions to extend our ideas. So this is I've just taken the grammar part of the Year 4 curriculum. So absolutely not an exhaustive list of what they have to do in Year 4. But just in terms of grammar, just have a quick look. I've just highlighted the bits that we're looking at today. But they should be able to extend sentences with a range of conjunctions using conjunctions, adverbs, and prepositions to express time and cause, using fronted adverbials, so thinking how we're starting our sentences, moving away from I, the, he, it, punctuating speech, using apostrophes, hello.
I'm not necessarily familiar with some of the terms like fronted adverbial.
Fronted adverbial. So if I said the man walked down the road slowly, I'm going to change that sentence because I don't want to start with the man because that's boring. I'm going to start with my adverb, which is slowly. Slowly, the man walked down the road. So it's just an adverbial, fronted adverbial is putting the adverb at the front of the sentence. And then we teach them then to put a comma after it.
Do you do that sort of not every sentence kind of thing?
No, not every sentence because then it sounds a little bit forced. But it's just to have that mix of sentences. Always thinking about your reader, because then you do have lessons where you teach them fronted adverbials, you then get them to write a piece and every sentence starts with the fronted adverbial and it's very hard to read because it's not natural. But it is just teaching them different ways to start the sentences, and they may even start with conjunctions. So we teach them that conjunctions link our two ideas in our sentence together, so they normally go in the middle. Let's put our conjunction at the start. It would normally be a subordinating conjunction, and then finish our sentence, just to get our sentence starters a little bit varied, because otherwise they do, then this happened, next, then she did this, and it just gets a little bit boring when you have to read 24 stories. So, what is a conjunction? As I just said, it's a word that's linking or connecting clauses within a sentence. So clauses are the basic building blocks of our sentences. They'll have a main subject, so the noun, and they'll have a verb. So if we look at this sentence here, it was raining, but I still walked the dog. We will go sledging if it continues to snow. So in that first one, I could take out the but. I could have a semicolon, which they learn about in year 5 and year 6. But in year 4, we're sticking with using conjunctions to make us extend our sentences, extend our ideas. So there are two main types of conjunctions. There are more, but the two main kinds are coordinating conjunctions, which are they're shorter words, so they're the more simple conjunctions. They join two clauses together. Do you want to go now, or shall we wait a bit longer? And they are put into the middle of a sentence where they're kind of equal in weight on either side. And then the subordinating conjunctions, which are a little bit more tricky. So when, while, before, after, because, although. These can go at the start of a sentence. So as you'll see in the example, although we'd had plenty to eat, we were still hungry when we got home. I could change that and put it in the middle of my sentence, but it has to be at the beginning of my subordinate clause, which isn't the main bit of the sentence. We were still hungry when we got home. That's my main clause. That's my main point. Although we'd had plenty to eat. Although we'd had plenty to eat doesn't make sense on its own. The other bit of the sentence does, which is why it's our main clause. And then our subordinating clause, starting with our subordinating conjunction, although we'd had plenty to eat.
Formulaic, if you read a book or a writer or
Yeah.
which I might use.
Yeah.
You sometimes, there's nothing to say that you couldn't, for example, start with a simple conjunction in some things, or is there?
No, I mean, it's not wrong. This is just the way we teach.
When you're being marked.
Well, it depends what do you mean as an example? What would you?
If you're doing an 11 plus comprehension,
Yeah.
you start, and you're,
Oh, if you're doing
not comprehension, sorry, you're
Yeah, writing. Yeah.
For grammar, but I never did.
Oh no. Well, no. In that instance, that's fine because then they're thinking about their short sentences, their sentence structure, and that's fine if they've done it for a purpose in their writing, because we teach them to write for a purpose, considering their audience. They're doing that for effect.
Yes, that's what
Yes.
I mean.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you destroy their creative flair that they have naturally.
Yeah. No, exactly. But in terms of teaching the mechanics of grammar, this is how we would generally use these types of conjunctions. But no, absolutely, they are writing for effect, for their audience, for their reader, and they've done that, starting with but, for effect, to bring tension into their writing. And we would absolutely not say, you can't do that, you can't do that. But this is the mechanics of how we would teach it in a grammar lesson. But yeah, we're not going to take away from their, bringing intention into their stories. Absolutely not. So here's a sentence here, a paragraph here. Can we identify the coordinating conjunctions? These are the easy, short ones, generally linking two ideas together.
So they're generally all in the middle of the sentence.
Yeah. Okay, can we identify which ones they are? And, yeah. But. And a yet, yeah. Yet is very seldom used. They prefer their ands and their buts. And you can see that, as someone mentioned here, they are generally put in the middle of two clauses. But like Mrs. Osborne said, when we're talking about writing for effect, writing with their natural flair, they may start a short sentence with effect with but. But then silence fell. And we're not going to say that's wrong. because you can do that, but we're teaching the mechanics of how you use these types of conjunctions. In this, can you identify the subordinating conjunctions? So slightly trickier. They may start a sentence. They're at the beginning of a subordinating clause, so adding in that extra information. Any takers? This is trickier. Yeah, well done. Despite. Despite is generally followed by the fact that. Despite the fact that. Any other ones? No. Surprisingly is a fronted adverbial. Because surprisingly is an adverb and you started your sentence with it. I'll put you out of your misery. Yeah, even though, well done. So despite the fact, it's generally followed by even though, and there's one more in that final sentence. Whereas, yeah. So as you can see, these are trickier to use in their writing. And this is what we are trying to aim for in year 4. We've got our and, our buts, and our so's, but can we get these types of words into our writing? So, oh. So I'm going to give you some sentences now, and I want you to, and I'm going to give you some jigsaw pieces, and I want you to link the sentences. Yeah, you can clear your little, I'll come collect those in a second, or you can keep them, up to you. Perfect, thank you. So I want you to link these sentences using either subordinating conjunctions or coordinating conjunctions. You can put them at the beginning, you can put them in the middle. You need to think about if you need to add any punctuation. There is no capital letters, well, there are capital letters, but do you need to change that to a lowercase? Do you need to add in a full stop? Okay, I will hand around some pencils if we need them, and then we'll have a look at what we've got. I'll give you 2, or would you like 1 each? Up to you. I'll give you 2. I'll give you 1 to do together. Okay. Group work. Do we need a pencil?
I'll have a pencil.
Yeah, there we go.
Lots of pencils.
Lots of pencils. Yeah. Yeah, writing directly onto the jigsaw piece to link your sentences, or your jigsaw piece might go at the beginning. Would you like a pencil? I have plenty. You're welcome. Would you like a pencil?
Very much.
Exciting, thank you.
Oh, so exciting when the bag of pencils comes out. Would you like one? You can check. There might be some red herrings in there for you. So practice, you use the ice for a noun, because ice is a noun. And then if it's an S, it's a verb, because it's is a verb.
So he's doing something.
So he's doing something.
So I just always think of it, I don't think
But then to practice is the verb. So is it right or is it wrong?
the verb, he said it's an S.
Yeah?
Yes, that's the verb, yeah. But I always think of it just as the doctor of practice. It's a C.
It's a C, so that's a noun. Yeah. Yeah, where I was thinking of it, I think of it as ice, which is a noun.
So I think that's,
Yeah?
You might be wrong, the dog. Sally is going to walk her dog, but
It's really cats and dogs, that's a rubbish sentence though, isn't it?
you can always swap it around.
yes, let's please do that.
So see if you can challenge yourself to put a subordinating conjunction at the beginning of your sentence, if it would make sense.
So what are we doing?
We're trying to put them together, connected.
Wow.
Like they could connect,
We could even have, outside.
Oh, it's just getting so exciting. Ooh.
Yeah, even though.
Despite's not on there, but you can have that one. Well done. Well done. We've got changing our capitals to lowercase if needed over here.
We do, but that's the other thing. Right. It's weird to us. It's called out of
I need to change this. I need to change the.
Oh, do you?
Yes, that's what she said. If you know, to small.
To lowercase.
Spelling.
James loves trouble. They scored highly in the Youngstown assessment because Sally and John. While his sister.
Are you starting your sentence with because here?
Well, we could. We're saying it could be both. It's not really. Yeah. Because here it could be because I have to wake up.
Give me palpitations, but okay.
It's not a word.
No.
That you start a sentence.
Can't start a sentence with because. No.
Because it belongs to something else.
You just start the sentence.
Yeah.
You, I had.
It's reliant on something else.
Of you.
I had to do this.
Unless we're writing song lyrics, of course. Just a few more minutes.
You girls, come on, right.
Can you change the order of any of these so that your subordinating goes at the beginning?
Probably.
So even though it is raining cats and dogs outside, Sally is going to walk her dog. Maybe, let's mix it up. Yeah?
they scored highly because, no, they scored highly in the end of term.
It's not, is it?
So if we're thinking about
Yeah.
using pronouns,
Since Sally and John.
yeah. But I would say if they'd written that sentence, I would say to them, I don't know who they are, and you're starting your sentence with they.
Yeah.
So we need to have our subjects first before we use our pronoun.
So,
But then that doesn't make sense because, does it?
no,
Because
then it has to
No,
be a
but then you
different
can
word.
put
freaks
since
me
at the
out.
front or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John dedicated the weekend to revising for their test. Cats and dogs outside.
So remember that we need to end our sentences with some form of punctuation.
I've had a yet.
Yeah?
Yeah, you could.
Mm.
Put multiple options.
Multiple option. That's how exciting grammar is.
This one, sorry, this one should have it.
This could
Yeah, I've
be.
got one here.
That's the word of the table to
This
do
be-
Why
punctuation.
not let's put in a semicolon?
Yeah.
Since, yeah, sorry.
You've got the end of the sentences.
We have our, should we-
Well done. We started with some subordinating. This is exciting.
because in the middle. Are we allowed? Is that
Oh yeah, no, because you can't have because at the beginning because it relies on something else. It relies on something else happening. So this happened because this happened.
you can't start with because?
No. No, they love starting with because, especially cause. They'll answer a question. Cause Sally was. No, cause isn't a word. Yeah, you could use as. As can go at the beginning, but because can't go at the beginning. No.
Right. Yes. That makes sense. They scored high. Some of this I know I learned this way at some point, and then forgot words like subordinating. But like then it just sort of gets ingrained into it. My dad. I think I learned it at school.
Yeah, and they're very keen on bringing the terminology back, and that the girls are aware of the terminology that they're using.
Yeah.
And it is tricky, like subordinating. But then if they know what a subordinating conjunction is, they'll then understand what a subordinating clause is. So it's linking those two ideas as well. But it is, terminology is, yeah. How do you not know this? My husband says exactly the same thing though. I mean, you use it in, yeah, no. And it came in with the 2014 curriculum. All the terminology they brought back in so that people are more aware of it. Okay, right, let's have a look at what we've got. Oh, we've got some disagreement going on. Exciting. Okay, anyone like to share one of their sentences, either coordinating or subordinating? Let's start. Willing volunteer. Oh, we have a willing volunteer.
Yeah, I'll do a subordinating.
Oh, it's starting high, aiming high. Like it.
So I've got, since school was closed for the summer, they remodeled the playground.
Oh, okay, so starting with our subordinating as well. Since school was closed for the summer, they remodeled the playground. Have we got anything at the end of the sentence? Like a full stop. Yes. Oh, yes. Full stop. Bit of kung fu punctuation. But I'm making an emphasis of the full stop because a lot of children in years 3 and 4, 5 and 6 even, forget to put their full stops. And I say, girls, I can't give you a mark for your sentence if you haven't got a full stop. Yeah, but it's meant to be there. Yeah, but you need to put it in, okay? Okay, have we got another one? So we've had the remodelling of the playground. Any other ones?
Even though it's raining cats and dogs outside, Sally is going to walk.
Very nice. Another one. We're aiming high, this group. I like it. Exclamation mark. Okay, well done. Starting with our subordinating clause again. We could have turned that round. Sally walked her dog, I can't remember what it was, even though it was raining cats and dogs outside. So you can put that in the middle, but at the front is even better. One from this table? Anyone? No, another sentence.
James loves travelling abroad, but his sister prefers to stay.
Yeah, James loves travelling abroad, but his sister prefers to stay at home. Great. 2 main clauses linked with that coordinating conjunction. Other one from this table?
Sally and John dedicated the weekend to revising for their test, and so they scored highly.
Oh, okay. We've used two coordinating conjunctions in one sentence, which is absolutely fine. And you ended, of course, with a... Ooh. Of course, it was meant to be that. Did anyone else choose a different one for that? Sally and John dedicated their weekend to... Did you? Okay, so you started with since Sally and John dedicated their weekend to revising, they scored highly. So you can see how those two main clauses could have been linked to the coordinating or started with a subordinating. So it's really getting the girls to think about different ways in which they can start their sentences. And I hope now that you are equipped with more ways in which to do that. Yes?
Would they be thinking of these in their heads, or would they be using pieces of paper to work?
So again, we'd use it as a model, but then we would expect them, as they go further into year 4, that these are coming naturally to them. I mean, there's always a working wall up in the room where they are, and there's generally, conjunctions that they should be using at that level in year 4, which they can magpie and take into their own work. So they do have those resources to use, but it should be coming naturally to them in their writing.
Some examples like we have, and they can pick and choose.
Yeah. And that's it from me. Any questions before Mr. Peters comes and wows you with some maths? Or before some of you try and leave? Yes. Yeah.
I was thinking the other day, when do they get taught to use the dictionary? My daughter.
Yeah, great question.
Siri,
Yeah.
I can't remember how, when I was taught to look stuff up in a dictionary.
Yeah, so it is a skill that they do in year 2, and we do then do again in year 3. But it's a tricky skill to learn because you kind of have to know how to spell the word in order to then try and look it up in a dictionary, if that makes sense. So it is something that they are taught lower down the school in 2 and in 3. There are dictionaries in every classroom, and they also, now that they've got their iPads, they will, without even asking, open up their iPads and look on the dictionary, or look in the thesaurus if they need to. Yeah, no, and absolutely, we have them in every classroom, and in some lessons, I will go around and put them on the tables for them, so they haven't got the excuse of, I can't bother to go and get it from the bookcase. So they have got the resource there for them to use. Yeah, and I think it was, and I think now with the introduction of iPads and them having that, them having that resource there with them, most of them would prefer to do that, and they're given the option. They have the option. I mean, it's personal. It's personal. It's up to, it's personal choice.
Would you recommend it matter that she can't look something up in the dictionary?
I wouldn't think so. I think you can Google
I'll
it.
stop caring.
I really do think. I think it's personal choice, and we give them that choice in lessons. You can either do it in a, looking it up in the dictionary, or you can use your iPad. And because they've got those resources to them, it's leaving it up to them to decide which they would prefer to use. But I mean, if you want her to be using a dictionary, by all means. Yeah, no, I mean, we do still do it, but not like we did, no. Yeah.
With regards to the iPad, are you against like using autocorrect, for example? So if she doesn't know how to spell a word, she'll go on the iPad and type it.
Yeah.
Immediately, if it's wrong, she'll come up with the
Yeah, so if girls write assessments on their iPad, which some girls do if they are allowed to, the autocorrect is turned off.
Yeah, but however, if she's writing something by hand,
Yeah.
she'll hand it in, and she'll ask me, oh, how do you spell this?
Yeah.
So you look it up, and she will immediately choose to go on the iPad and type it.
Okay, interesting. So I try and discourage her from doing that. Yeah. Try and discourage her from doing that. I'd say, well, let's write it down how you think it's spelt first. She'll use her phonetic knowledge. She'll get an idea of what it's like, and then after she'd given it a go, I'd then say, okay, now let's look it up and see which parts of the word you got wrong. But I wouldn't send her there straight away, because I want her to give it a go to see what she can do on her own, what parts of the word she got right, and what areas, what sounds she needs to work on. But definitely, I mean, the iPad is a great resource, but it's also, some people don't like it, but the girls do have it in lessons.
I'm getting them off.
Yeah, and it's getting that balance right.
Do they also get assessed in English at the end of this term?
At the end of each term, they get assessed in English. Yeah, so they get assessed in writing and comprehension.
That would have happened at the end of last term as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
And at the end of term, I guess you're looking for the skills that you've outlined to us this morning, basically.
Yeah. So these are skills that you log me off. That we will have been working on already and continue to work on throughout the year, as well as building in other things in order to prepare them when they go into year 5. So.
When do you come in and start teaching? Do you teach year 5, year 6?
Me, I teach 3, 5 and 6. Yeah.
Did you teach 3 last year?
I was on maternity leave, so having come back from maternity leave, no. Jade, yeah. So I'll see her next year. Well, thank you so much for coming. Enjoy Mr. Peters. They're ready and raring for you, Mr. Peters. Absolutely.